When radio was raw and wild, PJ was in charge. Producing radio and TV for some of the greats in the industry, PJ has seen it all. From Disco Duck to What the F***. This is Streaming Legends with PJ.
Hey, welcome to Streaming Legends. And so excited to have one of our faves back. The professor himself, Mr. Tom Leykis, is right here with us. And we're going to continue our conversation about what the hell's wrong with radio. And of course, the issues of love and life and being romantic. And this time we're adding your questions. So if you have questions, make sure when you watch this interview, you type them up because it'll get into the next one. But we've got a ton of questions to ask Tom about how he handles his life, his love, and how you should handle yours. So be watching. It's coming at you right now. And here he is. We're back with the professor. We're so happy to have you back, Tommy. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Paul, good to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy. Look at that hat. Are you really a fan of, is that Boston?
No, that's the Dodgers, Brooklyn Dodgers.
Oh, Brooklyn Dodgers. Okay, I was going to say, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's great. I like it.
Oh,
It's got the sun brim on it.
Oh, yes, it does.
Which is a good idea. With our black holes these days, it's a good idea to have a sun brim like that.
But also, it's very sunny and hot this summer, so I had to do what I had to do.
Well, how have you been? I mean, we're doing part 2 of our interview because we had such a great response to the first one. And we covered a bunch of stuff, but it was just so much fun with you that we couldn't wait to get you back on. So thank you for coming.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. And we were in the midst of, you were about to get your very expensive flat screen TV. Did you get that? And you got it all hooked up and everything? You're all set?
I have it all hooked up.
Yeah.
In fact, there it is.
Oh, give us a shot. Look at that. Wow. Oh, see, you have the whole studio thing with the seats and everything. I love that.
Oh, yeah. It's 85 inches of 8K. And the reason I don't come to any live sporting events anymore.
You don't have to. You know, sit there and enjoy the Dodgers. And are you a football fan?
I am.
Okay, great. Who's your team? Rams?
Rams.
Nice. Well, big winning going on here in Los Angeles. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about this year? Do you think they can do it again?
I think it's unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was a unicorn year, I think, for the Rams. It was the first time they won a Super Bowl in Los Angeles, ever.
Yeah.
And, and then they also had the serendipity to have the game played at their own home place. Next year will not be played there.
That's right.
So I think it's going to be a challenge for them to do 2 in a row, but how can you complain? I mean, they hadn't had 1 in a row, so now they do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. It's hard for any team to come back and do it again, just based on how much luck is involved with injuries and everything else that goes on. It's very, very difficult, but yeah, love to see it.
Oh yeah, well, and the NFL also. They do a good job with parity. They do a good job with the draft pick order.
Yep.
And for the most part, except when Tom Brady is winning the championship, whichever conference he's in, they've done a pretty good job of keeping the NFL competitive.
No, they do. And I really blew it, Tom, because I was in Vegas before last season started. And I told my wife, I said, we got to go. I know we're going to catch a plane, get out of here, but I have to go down and put $100 on the Rams to win the Super Bowl. Now, this is before the season started. I got down there. The line was huge. And I waited. And she kept calling me saying, we got to go. I left. I didn't do it.
Right.
I would have made some cash.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, it's that way with Powerball. Every Friday, somebody says, oh, I had all the numbers but 1.
Yeah.
So 10 million other people.
That's right. Yeah.
From the tech world, I had started with solar panels here, and they're great. And I haven't paid an electric bill in like 12 years. But
okay, I got to ask you a question about that, because I was looking at solar, and the reason I got interested is because they said, well, it doesn't cost you anything. Is that true, or do you pay a fee each month? How does it work?
Well, you have to pay. In my case, I had to pay over $100,000 for the 18 kilowatt solar array.
Whoa.
And then I got some incentives back from the government, which took the price down to about 65,000. So from 110 or 120,000, whatever it was supposed to be. So now I have added into the mix, I have added in these Tesla power walls, which are batteries, and I have 6 of them, and they prevent you from being taken down in bad weather,
Oh,
power failures for any reason. The grid is too busy. I will always have energy no matter what. And
but you have like a little city there. I mean, you have your own little city, the Leykis city.
right, I got 20 acres here to look after. So, it's almost like running a farm or a small business, really.
Yeah. You should have like a
And
little golf cart. Maybe you have one. Do you have a golf cart you kind of drive around in?
not yet, but everybody around here does, and maybe I should.
I
But
think you should.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the idea, see what they do with solar energy is that they want to make things fair. They say. So when like the electric company, which here is PG&E, when they turn the electricity off on purpose to prevent a fire,
Yep.
everybody gets shut down, including people like me who have solar panels.
Oh,
So what is happening is that I am manufacturing solar that just gets dumped into the grid, and somebody else gets to use it while I'm sitting in the dark.
that's crazy.
So I went and got these solar batteries, and now I am up 24/7. I won't lose food from the freezer. I won't have to sit in swelter during a hot day. It's fabulous.
No, that's the way to go. That's part of the Tom Leykis city that I know and love,
Oh,
And then if we can get you
yeah.
like a little red golf cart with the professor written on the side, and you just kind of drive around and survey your territory.
I do have a neighbor down the road a piece who does exactly that. He's on his little motorized vehicle all day long, and that includes he has a tractor, and he is constantly mowing his 20 acres. They're mowing all day long, and I don't know. I don't think I like doing maintenance that much. I have people come in and take care of it for me.
I think that's a smart way to go. You ever bump into Oprah?
No, because Oprah lives about 30 miles south,
Oh, okay.
south of Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So no, I don't run into Oprah. I don't run into Ellen DeGeneres, and I don't run into Prince Harry.
No.
Not,
Nobody wants to run into Prince Harry now.
no, no.
Poor guy.
The paparazzi maybe, but that's about it.
So take us through a typical day, because we're talking about your spread. We're talking about your lifestyle. What is the typical day for Tom Leykis? You wake up at what time?
Well, it varies. I have sleep issues. So frequently I'm awake at 5 a.m. and then back to sleep sometime before 7, which
Okay.
takes my wake up time to about 11 a.m. to noon
Mhm.
on a given day. But once I get up, it's really no different from reporting to an office or reporting to a studio. I've got an agenda every day. I've got jobs I got to do around here, things I got to take care of. Occasionally there are projects like involving a contractor, like the TV project I did here, like the battery project.
Yeah.
All this requires planning and meeting and whatever. And the bottom line is, after it's all done, really, it ends up being more efficient financially. I cut costs to the bone around here because this is a 4,400 square foot house.
Wow.
It's a lot of space, and not a big crowd over here. So I got work to do.
Yeah, no, that's it's a lot to take care of, and you can really stay busy just doing that,
Right.
if you jump into the middle of it like you're doing, so I understand,
Oh yeah.
that's a lot,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So
So,
yeah, and then a lot of my day is spent planning on what I'm going to make for dinner.
mhm.
I mastered one of those Traeger pellet grills over here, which
Oh,
I
you did?
resisted. Yeah, I
Yeah.
resisted that for 15 years.
I do
Um,
too. I'm still resisting, by the way.
yeah, well, here's what happened to me. Last year, I was finally, for the first time, evacuated from my home because of a fire down the road.
Ooh.
And the water brigade came in, and the people dropping the forever chemicals, fire
Yeah.
retardant, they flew in. And so the bottom line was that, I could not risk starting a fire with my old school smoker anymore because it is so dry. There are so
Yeah.
many fires. And this summer it's been very windy up here on the ridge. So I decided to switch it off so that you have the pellets contained in a closed space where they're not going to fly around. There's not going to be any embers. And I went for it mostly for safety reasons.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, you look great. So you must still be on your no salt, that whole thing. You're still doing that.
Yeah, that's a forever thing, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a forever thing. The other stuff that people do, in my view, and I say that as someone who did the things that other people do at one time. Going on a diet where you plan to lose 22 pounds in a month, like you do on Nutrisystem for Men in the TV commercials.
Right.
That doesn't work. If you lose 22 pounds in a month, you're probably going to gain back 30 pounds the following month. And you see that with people all the time. They lose enough weight not to pop a button at somebody's wedding. They go right back to business as usual. This is forever.
Yeah.
So salt is gone. Sodium
Wow.
gone forever. Fast food places gone.
No French fries, huh? Can you do the baked? You do baked French fries? You bake them?
No, I'll fry French fries.
Okay.
The problem with it is not peanut oil that
Okay.
you would fry French fries in. The problem is that McDonald's French fries, for example, if you go to their website, mcdonalds.com, look at nutrition facts, McDonald's French fries contain up to 22 ingredients.
Mm.
And the 22 ingredients include dextrose, which is white sugar, beef fat, because the folks at McDonald's want everything at McDonald's to smell like a hamburger.
Right.
And so it's beef tallow is one of the ingredients in a
Wow.
French fry. By the way, it's also one of the ingredients in hot apple pie. I love the concept of McDonald's, the taste of McDonald's, the marketing of McDonald's. As someone who grew up in the advertising business, McDonald's is second to none in that respect. And I got nothing bad to say about them as a business. But as someone who needs to watch his diet and really watch it, I can't eat anything they make in there. And now they've got the story you might have seen recently is many of these fast food joints have forever chemicals in there. For example, the paper at Jersey Mike's is on one side is glossy. And that glossiness, it comes from these chemicals they put in to try to keep the grease from leaching out.
Oh.
But the chemicals can leach out into your food. You put a hot sandwich in that piece of paper, and that's what's happening. Or you put hot food into a styrofoam container.
Mhm.
That's what's happening. So look, I don't believe in preaching to people because no one's going to do what I'm doing. But all I will say is that you can ask me now, and I'm happy to answer. And you can ask me a year from now, and I will still be doing the same thing because it is not a diet. It is not Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem or Noom or any of those things. It's not Jenny Craig. It is literally taking the worst toxins out, taking out salt, sodium, most soy sauces, sugar, brown and white, out.
Out?
And out.
As in
Out.
zero?
As in zero. Like, for example, if I sweeten anything, I use a low glycemic sweetener like agave nectar.
Yeah.
But not sugar.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's performed miracles on me. I take my vital signs 4 or 5 times a day. My blood pressure is down to pretty much normal. My heart rate is down in the normal range. Everything has, I've flipped the script on my life here. It's been pretty good.
That's really good. I died 2 years ago, so I don't worry about any of that stuff now. I just eat whatever I want. No, I'm careful with what I eat, but not like you. I mean, I I don't know if I could give up sugar. I'm just being honest with you. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
I love sugar.
Well, everyone loves sugar, and that's why it's in every single thing Americans eat. Everything.
Everything.
King's Hawaiian bread, or
Mm.
hell, the sugar and French fries at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I have a sweetener that is natural, that works. I use it in small quantities. And yes, there's an adjustment. But I got to tell you, having done this, the hardest one to kick is salt. That's the hard one. Because my dad used to take overcooked.
Yeah, probably because, like you say, yeah.
My dad used to take overcooked pieces of choice meat from the supermarket and cook it to within an inch of its life. And then he would take the salt shaker and turn it upside down and just coat the top of that blackened piece of meat.
Oh my God.
And, come on, you can't do that. But I grew up
No.
that way, and my family grew up that way. So I had to unlearn some things with time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you do that, you do your barbecue, and then what
Yep.
time do you have dinner roughly?
Roughly 7 o'clock. But and I'm also doing my own podcast, which I do about 2-3 times a week.
Yes.
And and if I'm not recording it, I'm actually writing the next episode, because I find that for the way I do a show, like a radio show, when I did a live call-in show, that was spontaneous. And the reason it was spontaneous is because you can't write a 4-hour script for a radio show. Who does
No
that?
way. No one.
So you come in and they do it off the cuff. But when you are recording, there are no excuses for making even a minor factual error, or misspeaking in any way. Got to do editing. There's all kinds of things you have to do when it's a recorded show that you don't have to do when it's a live show.
Right. Right. So that keeps you busy. And then
Oh.
to finish our thought on this. So what time do you retire for the evening? Do you get in bed?
Lately, I've been in bed by 10:30, 11 o'clock because of my unpredictable sleep patterns. So I'm in bed. I'm usually asleep by 11.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just to make sure I get to sleep on time, I'm not gonna lie, I do a couple of gummies from the dispensary, and I'm out in 20 minutes time. That's it.
And happy, smiling.
Happy, smiling. It's not a bad thing. I'm not worried about, when I read about what's going on in the radio business, the people who've been fired and hired back at a fraction of what they used to make, to get fired again or quitting or whatever. I don't miss that. I loved the act of speaking into the microphone and having a caller on the other end of the phone. But I do not miss the business the way it is, because it's just sad. You're constantly reading about people getting knocked off for one reason or another. People who are good at what they do, radio stations that have ratings and they still get knocked off. Doesn't make sense.
I was just relating to our producer, Chris, here, that, I do an event every year called America Fest at the Rose Bowl. And so we invite radio stations. And we used to have like 20, 30, 40 radio stations show up in an area, and they would do their broadcasts and they would do this and that. And this was a precursor to going in to see the show. It'd be outside the Rose Bowl. Well, like only 4 or 5 can do it now because nobody has a crew. They want to come, but nobody even has a crew to come and set up to do a show. It's so sad. They fired everybody.
Right. I'm going to tell you a story that I don't think I've told you before. It was, most people know that when I signed my last deal with 97.1 in LA, that I had a 5-year guaranteed no-cut contract.
Nice.
And then less than 2 years into my contract, they decided to change the format of the station because the economy fell off a cliff. And so the whole station got changed. So that left them with 37 months on my contract.
Ooh.
And the law, they agreed, it was guaranteed, they had to pay me. So, I signed that deal. There's no deals like that anymore in radio, but
No.
I signed that deal and I sat home for 3 years and enjoyed my time. And the fact is that now all you hear about are people, so many talented people in the radio business sitting on the sidelines, and some of whom I think, unfortunately, are waiting for the good times to come back. And I keep telling them, we had the good times, we rode it white hot, but just like the stagecoach isn't coming back, well, I think
Yep.
radio is heading for the junkyard. It's done. It's an apply. And by the way, recorded content or audio content, that's not going away. Radio's an appliance.
Yeah.
And it's just another means of like nobody asked when 45s, the record format, when they came out with LPs, or when they went from vinyl to 8 tracks, nobody asked, are the Rolling Stones going to survive this change? Or are the Beatles going to survive this change? They just went to another delivery system.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I know there's a demand for audio content, but the radio business model was broken by private equity groups and hedge funds and what have you. And it's never coming back. It's done. Like the department store is done.
Yeah.
Radio stations done. It was a great ride. It was fun. You got radio stations this year who are celebrating their 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
AM stations that came out in the early 20s.
KFI is one of them.
KFI is one of them. There's a bunch.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them this year, because 1922 was when the FCC licensed a bunch of big stations like KDKA in Pittsburgh and others.
Oh yeah.
But that's a long run. Why would anyone expect that to run forever?
Yeah.
I'm talking to you right now on my, for lack of a better term, radio, because it's my phone. It's where I listen to the radio. I rarely turn on an actual radio.
Isn't that sad? And you were in the business for so long, and it's like, we just don't use that, any longer. And the kids don't use it much anymore. It's just not used.
Well, but there's all kinds of things you can do in the digital realm that you can't do with a radio station. And everything, including, listen to shows on demand, hold shows, pause them in the middle and continue tomorrow if you want to, or a week from now. You can't do that with a radio. How many times at radio stations, there's commercials that advertise a phone number or a web address, and the radio station is besieged by calls all day long. People going, what's the phone number on Jacob and Ronnie? What is it? And it's with streaming content, it's just not like that.
Yeah,
the other thing about the streaming content is I think I do better work because I record at the time when I am pissed or when I see a story. I immediately go into the studio and record. So rather than doing a story that came out at 9 a.m. and now it's 3 p.m. and everyone's chewed it over, I get right in and start working on it immediately. And that could be, it's not on any given schedule. It's when things happen.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's what life is about now. You're right. And people don't want to have to wait for the programs they want. They don't want to have to, they don't need to go to radio stations for weather and all that stuff any longer. You can ask your phone and it'll tell you the temperature and what it's going to be all week in 1 second.
Well, again, radio killed itself. It's a suicide, not a homicide.
Yeah.
This all began in the 80s when they started deregulating radio to the extent to which it's deregulated now. And I mean, there's good and bad to deregulation, but the bad is that one company can own, 8 stations in a market, and many times they do. And it kills all the competition because many times these big companies hold radio stations as placeholders. You have the big talk radio station in the market, and you have the second best AM signal in the market, So you just put big band music or some other time filler on the lesser signal. And I don't agree with letting companies own that many radio stations. I think that's one thing that has killed the business, killed it.
Yeah.
When you walk in and there's 8 nameplates behind the reception desk for 8 formats, and they're all the same 8, Kiss and Star and Power and this and that. It's always the same thing. And now you go to radio stations and you can watch a tumbleweed blowing down the hallway. There's empty studios, nothing going on.
No, nothing going on outside.
Yeah, well, being on the road with the syndicated show, I already started seeing this in the 90s, where you would go into radio stations and there was just a bunch of empty rooms or cubicles, nobody there.
Yeah.
And the cutting of the budgets, the ramping down of the employee list, it's killed radio. And everybody wants you to pretend you're not seeing it. Everybody wants you to pretend it's that's not the case, but that is the case. And when you see these tents, and people post some of these online sometimes, they put these tents up, like for the Wave or stations like that. They put tents up and they put some intern with a bunch of beer koozies and keychains. There is nobody, not one observer, not one onlooker, no looky-loos. Nobody is the least bit curious about what's going on over there. I remember watching 3,000 people at Camacho's at 3:00 in the afternoon. Now that's giving out beer koozies at a parking lot in Culver City. That's not what I signed up for.
And you're right. It looks so pathetic to see a little tent pitched out there and a couple interns in it. And they've got some little wheel that they're spinning, and there's 1 or 2 people standing there. I mean, that's a negative for them. It's not a positive, but they don't see it that way.
Well, the thing about radio also is that they don't understand the basic fundamentals of entertainment or show business or showmanship. You should never do a broadcast where your station or your personalities look small. And there's more and more of that in radio now, where the advertiser wants a tent in the parking lot, even if no one's going to show up. And the radio station says no pushback. They just will put that tent anywhere. But don't they realize there's somebody out there with a cell phone taking pictures of your empty parking lot? Come on. You want to look big. You want to be big. When I did remote broadcasts, I said no to a lot of them, because in a lot of them, I knew I was going to see more than 30 people.
Yeah. Right. So you didn't go into that situation, but you said the magic word. The magic word is no. And when you're in the radio business, if you have the means in terms of having a little tent, whatever, they're never going to say no, because they want that money from the sponsor. They're going to say yes to all that without thinking of the imaging and the branding and all of that.
And you have to wonder, though, in the aggregate, how much these companies lose by making their businesses look tiny, or insignificant. Here we are, the entertainment capital of the world, and then you've got these cheesy radio station setups that look like you're in Dayton, Ohio. It just looks awful, and it's one of the many ways they've destroyed the business. I mean, they had the golden goose, and they could have owned podcasting and stream. They could have owned that stuff. But as I have said, and I love him to death, so I'm not saying this to be meaning, but Mel Karmazin looked me in the eye and said, you can't monetize the internet. He said this in 1996. You can't. This was before Amazon or Netflix. You can't monetize the internet. And now most broadcasting content is streamed over the internet. But in the 90s, we did not have a website paid for by the company. We did not have an email address paid for or set up by the company. And the result was that when I left the company, I own my email address. Unlike some people, I own my website, belongs to me personally, and I'm going to take that wherever I go. So the radio station can't do the usual thing they do, pretend you never existed.
Right.
Everybody knows where to look for me. If they don't hear me on the radio, they know where I am.
They know where you're at. And and you know what else they want to know? They want to know. I've got a whole bunch of questions I've got to ask you because questions have come in from the listeners. But are you still with your girlfriend?
No. That changes all the time, as you know.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're not with any particular girl right now.
No, I am here with a very. No, I'm not going to talk about that. But I have. Let's just have an animal in distress.
Okay. All right. So I let me ask you a few questions because I want to get through some of these for the listeners. It's this is from Alyssa of Orange County, California. If we opened up your refrigerator right now, we kind of talked about this, but not really. What would we find the most of in your refrigerator right now?
Well, it's different now than it used to be. Right now, it's probably Trader Joe's sparkling lime, sparkling water.
Okay.
Yeah. I gave up soda among the many things I gave up.
Yeah. Okay. This is from Roman from Sedona, Arizona. Did you ever feel you were missing something by not forming a loving romantic relationship?
No. No. I felt that, I look, I come from a background where my dad was a functioning alcoholic. And so I had to leave home at age 16. And the rest of my adult years were spent chasing as much cashola as I could make because I didn't get any help going to college or anything like that. So when I had relationships over the years, the women I was involved with frequently complained about the need to be flexible and move to where the next job was. There's not a lot of women who want to get up in the morning and face you at the breakfast table and you say, 2 weeks from Monday, we're starting doing mornings in Cleveland. They don't like that.
Yeah,
And
they don't like that.
no, they don't like that. And so I went through this virtually every time I had someone with me when I moved who would complain. I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to leave my doctor. I don't want to leave my beautician. I don't want to, whatever. I don't want to leave the neighborhood. But as someone who was in the radio business since age 14, you go where the work is. It's like you get assigned and then you go, you put your head down, you go.
Right.
There's no time to sit around and go, well, I know you're going to miss Jennifer and I know you're going to miss shopping at the Nordstrom here. I know you're going to miss that. You had to go through these conversations all the time. And when you're alone, you don't have to have those conversations.
That makes sense. You're kind of like a rock star. A rock star is in a different city. I mean, hard guy to marry because he's in a different city every week and
Right.
meets different people and just, he has no roots, basically.
Well, you just have to be ready to say, okay, we did our 2 years in Miami and now we're moving on to Phoenix to do 3 years there. Like you can't just say, well, this is the cul-de-sac I'm going to call home for the rest of my life.
Right.
Because the way you move up in the radio business is to like comedians, you constantly have to be working your material and working your way up the ladder of, in the case of comedy, it's clubs. In the case of radio, it's radio stations and bigger markets, bigger stations, bigger rating. And that pursuit goes on. It never goes away. You're constantly a free agent at the end of the deal, and you're always looking ahead to what's going to happen. But there's not a lot of women who like that. They don't want to be there. They don't want to, pack up and leave for the next city. They don't like it.
Yeah. Okay. This is from Kim. It's a 2-part question from West Los Angeles, California. Should a father of a girl you would date be nervous? That's the first half. And the second half is, how were you treated by your in-laws when you were married?
I was treated, well, put it this way. I didn't know my in-laws in a couple of these cases. But yeah, I was generally treated well by in-laws. That was never a problem. The problem was not in-laws. The problem was always the women themselves. And again, I'm not blaming anybody for being like this. I just stating the reality of the situation. When I have been with women, they have always tried to resist my efforts to move to another city or move to a bigger contract. It upsets the apple cart.
Yeah.
Every woman I've known wants to, nest right, right where you are,
Right.
and do not want to have the adventure of, I've been in, holy cow, Stanton, Virginia, Albany, New York, Miami, Phoenix, Boston, Los Angeles. Twice I left LA for 11 months back in 1993. And there's not a lot of women who want to just ride the roller coaster with me.
No. But you're not a nester anyway. You're not really a nester, I don't think.
I'm not, but I'm saying the women are.
Yeah, right. Oh, definitely. Definitely. They want to nest. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had one woman once when I lived years ago, when I lived in Laurel Canyon, I was dating the producer of the TV show Hard Copy.
Oh,
And so this woman, I'm thinking, well, she's doing really well. She's very successful. She drives the top of the line Mercedes and lives in a condo in Marina Del Rey, blah, blah, blah. And I have to say that when she came over to my house, she, in her mind, she had like this mental tape measure. She was measuring for drapes and furniture. Oh, this place just needs a woman's touch. I couldn't believe what she was saying. I had no intention of living with this woman,
yeah.
but she was all ready to move in and then buy furniture.
But see, you're good at that. I always had a problem when I didn't want to be with someone any longer. I would try to create things to make them want to break up. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but you're not like that. You could just tell somebody, right?
Well, I've done it, but I also in some cases waited too long before pulling the trigger. And I've been very open about it. I went to therapy for 9 years to talk about some of the issues that came up, and some of them were related to growing up in a household with an alcoholic parent. So you look for ways to feel secure, or to lose your insecurities, or what have you. And all I know is that yeah, after a while, you get tired of having the same conversations. You know the script, you know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I had one situation, this is almost 40 years ago. I was living in Miami with my producer and 9-year-old son.
Uh-huh.
And look, the son was a fine boy, smart, all that, but he constantly tried to interfere in his mom's relationship because he was clearly upset that his parents broke up.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I got the job in Phoenix, I went to my producer and I said, well, I got to get out of here within 2 weeks because I got to be on the air in Phoenix. And she said, when are we leaving? And I said, we are not leaving. I'm leaving.
Ooh.
I didn't want there to be any confusion about it.
She took that hard, I'm sure, because that came out of left field for her.
Well, for her it did, but the job came out of left field.
Yeah.
And I did not want that kid moving with us and continuing his reign of terror. I did not want that. The whole, this is an ongoing issue. It's a hard business to be married in or to have a girlfriend in. And it's not just because of the usual rock and roll reasons. It's just also because many women just drag their feet about moving anywhere or doing anything. And they also panic, I have to say, just like there are other people in your life, family members, what have you. They always get nervous if you might be moving up, making more money, getting a better job, getting a better profession, whatever. There are people who, like that allegory about the crabs in the pot. Each one tries to leave the pot and the others drag them back in. It's kind of like that. Yeah. People get very nervous if they think you're going to be moving on up somewhere.
Right. You mentioned a couple times about your dad, and he was a functioning alcoholic. Was that an embarrassing situation for you in terms of like wanting to bring friends home from school and stuff because you were worried about how he was going to be and that kind of thing? Did that play an influence on you?
That's a great question, but I have to tell you that we had moved to a suburb from New York City. We moved 50 miles east. It would be like moving from downtown LA or Hollywood to Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No man's
So
land.
I am living in a ranch style home with my family, and there is no public transportation. You're a mile away from any store,
Hmm.
movie theater 4 miles away, a lot of hitchhiking.
Yeah.
Um, so when I lived in that situation, mostly it was just sitting and waiting on the front steps. My dad, who was polishing off a bunch of Sixers,
Yeah.
6 packs of Schaefer beer in the car on the way home.
Oh my God.
And then we'd get home in a lousy mood.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I haven't seen any friends so I lived there 6 years. I finally got out at age 16
Yeah.
because it was miserable.
Yeah.
I understand why kids hate living in places like that. Adults love it because they think it's safer. But the suburbs are full of drugs now and
Oh yeah.
all kinds of violent crime. I mean, you can't get away from what's going on in the world. And
No,
people always talk about getting away from it, but they really don't.
you can't anymore. It's everywhere. It really is.
Oh,
But
yeah.
this is a question. Let me see. I got to read this one. This is JR from Chicago, Illinois, and he's asking for your advice, Tom. I'm in a 3-year relationship with a beautiful girl who tells me it's time to get married. You've probably been in this one yourself, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not ready. She says it's now or never. And so he's asking, should I pull the trigger and do a quickie Vegas wedding like she wants or risk losing her? What do you think?
Well, his answer is contained within the way he phrased the question. I mean, if you're asking Tom Leykis, what Tom Leykis would do, Tom Leykis doesn't do ultimatums.
Yeah.
You give me an ultimatum and that's that.
That's it.
Yep. I'm not losing anything. If you're going to start bullying me around, bossing me around, it's time to go.
Mhm.
Now, I know a lot of guys like this lovesick individual who sent you this question. I know already what he wants to do, but he is going to be the one calling me or writing me in a few years and complaining that she thinks she runs everything.
Right.
But he'd be giving her the key to the vault by doing what she tells him to do.
So you're obviously saying he shouldn't do it.
No, do not do that.
Okay.
Do not.
And if she walks out and says, I've got another guy, then que sera, sera.
Yeah. Well, the point is, you already had her. You already saw her naked. You've already gotten the goods. How many, now you're just repeating history here. Again.
Is that how you compartmentalize that? Like when you were doing this, you thought, I've already had this girl. I've already seen her naked. I've been in the shower with her. If I don't do that 20 more times, I'm okay. Is that
correct?
Is that how you, yeah.
Well, we'll put it this way. Unless I actually did love someone and, the odds of that are small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, what love has turned into in most cases for people these days is torture.
Mhm.
Trying to control the behavior of another person, trying to pummel them into submission. I have no interest in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he got his answer. Emma from San Francisco wants to know, are you sorry in any way that you've never had children?
Absolutely not. Now that I am about to turn 66 years old, I get asked this question more and more. Like, aren't you sorry you didn't have kids? No. Not having kids means I own 2 houses paid for. Not having kids means I travel wherever I want. Not having kids means I don't have to eat dinner at Shakey's Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese. I'm eating great food, drinking great wine, making great trips places. No, I don't regret it. And another thing is that kids today are very entitled. They do not, in many cases, appreciate what their parents bring to the table. And so there's really no reward for all those years of sacrifice, spending money and whatever. There's really no reward for that.
Mhm.
So I have my reward now. My babies live in my wine cellar. All my babies are 750 milliliters. And I don't have to worry that kids are sticking their fingers in the socket or
Yeah.
how to wipe their butts or any of that. I don't have to do any of that stuff.
No,
And
no.
why would I regret that?
No, you got some good points there, Tommy. The point about your wine collection. Have you
Mhm.
ever thought, because you've got 20 acres of growing wine, because that's a great hobby.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, I've been at the ranch for 15 years. That was one of my original thoughts, was not only to have a vineyard, but also to have like a small tasting room or a
Mm.
cave built, because I've got a hillside where I could do that. But in living in wine country as long as I have now, I know that growing grapes is agriculture.
Mhm.
We dress it up or make it more romantic because it's made into wine. But in reality, it's no different from growing lettuce. And that means that includes all the expenses
Yep.
of grading the property, flattening out the land so that you can have equal rows of vines and what have you. I realize that there's all these risks and all these expenses.
Yeah.
The cost of water. Look, in California, we're having big debates about water.
Yeah.
If I have to water a vineyard, holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
So it's a nice dream to have. But I do have a property just north of me that has a vineyard, and a property about a mile a mile west of me. There's a couple of vineyards that I can see in the distance. So I have the look and feel of being in wine country, but none of the expenses.
That's great. And you can
Yeah.
make your own labels and slap them on there.
Right. Exactly.
We're running out of time, but a couple more questions real fast. Okay, this is from Olivia in Boston, Mass. What celebrity could get you to the altar?
Celebrities especially cannot get me to the altar,
Okay.
because I know how celebrities live their lives. Now they're in whether it's a movie person and they are doing hot scenes with whoever the big male star is now, Toby Maguire or whoever. Many times these romances make their way off the movie set and into people's personal lives. I was married to a TV news reporter who did me in because I know how people do live in that world.
Right.
And I have no interest in like for example, one of the people around LA who had quite the reputation, and I won't say for what because I don't want to get you or me in trouble.
Right.
But one of those people ended up marrying the richest guy in the world, or one of the richest guys in the world. And in the meantime, everybody in town knew this woman.
I think I
And
know who you're talking about.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And like 20 years ago, I used to walk around LA talking to people in the TV business who would tell me about this person.
Yeah.
And every guy I talked to had slept with her. Everybody,
Right.
every news director, every sports director, everybody. And she just had one goal, and that was to get as much money and influence as she could get out of it.
Mhm.
I don't want to be with people like that.
Yeah,
No way,
yeah.
no how.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So you don't want to
But
be you don't want to be J-Lo's next husband after Ben Affleck.
definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, she's, to me, she's like a grifter. Somewhere in her collection, she's got like 12 engagement rings hanging on like a tree, like they would have at the jewelry store. All the engagement rings she has collected over the years. No way, no interest, no.
Let's see what Dave has from Las Vegas, Nevada. I truly believe it's not natural to be with one person your entire life. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've proven it.
You're the living legend of that.
Yes, yes. In retrospect, I do believe that if people could look back and see the whole arc of their lifetime, I think people are better off remaining unmarried for as long as they possibly can. Travel, experience knowing people, do interesting things. Don't get married at 22 and then spend the rest of your life tempted by hot chicks you see around. Go live your life. And then my exception on the marriage rule is once you get above, say, 50, if you want to get married to someone at that time, after your kids are grown, after their kids are grown, and when it's not a matter of money, and if you can do it with a prenup, I don't object to it as long as you're not taking that risk.
Right. No, that's a good point. So who are you going to leave your money to, Tom? I mean,
well,
I'll throw my name out there just as a thing. But I mean,
I do have people,
okay,
who along the way have helped me in my life, in my career, keeping things moving, keeping the trains running on time for me, and those people will be rewarded. Also, I'm planning on giving a substantial donation to Planned Parenthood because right now they need it.
boy, do they.
Yeah. So I don't need to, go to ancestry.com and figure out what second cousins deserve to get a financial kiss from me. I would much rather go with people I know who've been good to me. There are many.
Yeah.
I mean, and whatever my persona is on the radio, I'm not going to pretend that I did this all myself. I've had everything from housekeepers to girlfriends 40 years ago to other friends I've had who lent me $150 when I needed to rent a car to drive to my next job, things like that. I will find all of those people and I will reward them for what they did. I remember who they all are and they won't be forgotten.
Boy, that's fantastic. That's the way to do it, I think, because in this, the way you're talking about living, which is a fine style of living, but you do need to leave your legacy to somebody. And if you can, continue your legacy by doing that, I think that's a smart thing. I really do.
Well, and that's the idea. Most people feel obligated to just spread this money around with their families. But, I've got family members who never pick up the phone or never respond to a phone call. So rather than gifting those people, I'm going to gift people who actively took a role in making it possible. Anything from me to get out of the house on time, to helping me move heavy objects, to helping me with various radio projects or other things that I've done. And believe me, there's plenty of deserving people. I just don't happen to share DNA with most of them.
Right. Well, thank you for gifting us with yet another great interview. This is part 2, and hopefully we'll do a third part because we have so much to talk. I didn't get to half the questions, but we had so much fun talking about radio and everything. It's always a great time. You're the best.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate it and enjoy it very much, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you did. And we did. And I know that the listeners did. So thank you, Tom. You have a great day and we'll do this again. Yes?
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you so much.
And as usual, it's becoming a regular feature now. When we leave, you got to do it. You got to blow us up.
All right, here we go.
Thanks for listening to Streaming Legends with PJ. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And don't forget to recommend the show to a friend. For more podcasts and online content, go to thisisfunner.com.